All right, folks, so we're doing it again. Today, I'll be interviewed from the International Mastermind Association, and you'll get a chance to see, how convenient and how cool is it when you can work from home, when people are interested in what it is that you have to say, and people are interested in how you apply certain techniques and nuances to building your business and in living your life. So we'll be getting started momentarily. I'm just going to put this back on just for my cue, actually. We'll be right back. Let's see how it goes. Talk to you very soon, and follow up with you after the broadcast.
Sir Charles Carey is a peak performance strategist who shows organizations and individuals how to design a life of certainty out of a life of uncertainty. He uses a customized talk called Radiate the Brain and Change the Game to empower others to be their best. For the past 17 years, Sir Charles has not only transformed his own life in some health challenges that he's had, but he has also helped to transform the lives of organizations and individuals. Charles has faced environmental and life-threatening challenges and has proven that in spite of all, he can be a successful champion. He is an Amazon best-selling author with vast experience in training and facilitating. He has appeared on ION TV, CBS, NBC, ABC, the list goes on, and he's also been on the Keynote reality TV show. He is known to professionals at all levels, in all channels, in all industries. I've personally known Sir Charles for close to 10 years. Be prepared to be blown away as he discusses organized planning, the crystal.
Take notes, get a pen, not just for me, from the questions and the information.
And tell the audience a little bit about yourself and how I have come to become a fan of yours. Just share a little bit about yourself and a little bit how you become a fan of Think and Grow Rich.
Wow, I'm listening to you, Galen. First of all, thank you for such a wonderful, edified introduction. But I'm listening to you, and I'm like, wow, is that really me? Have I done all those things? But I am honored. And first and foremost, I would like to also say thank you for the International Mastermind Association for having me on today. Peter and Pajine, Ursula, Betty, who I have not met, definitely Miss Ann McNeil, and if it had not been for Napoleon Hill, right? So I'm grateful to be here. I don't look at anything or take anything for granted. To me, every opportunity is an honor. So a little bit about me. I think you've shared for the most part, what I've done, but I'm just a regular guy that really had a lot of questions, and this is one of the biggest things to me, Galen. I've always sought clarity in my life. I don't care what I was doing, personal, professional, social, or even recreational. I always wanted to understand, what are the rules? Can I not? Why? What if? So on and so on. And, that's me. I'm an inquisitive person, and I'm a creative person as well. Father, grandfather, I have all these attachments to the being that I am, but I'm just a lover of life and truly a lover of people, man. So I've done quite a bit, but I don't want to run away with the talk, with the conversation. So I'll let you guide me accordingly.
Absolutely. And I tell you, you and I have known of each other and known each other for about 10 years. I'm really, really excited to have this conversation with you over a book that both of us have mutual admiration for. And before we get into some questions from our co-host, I just want to remind the audience that we do want this to be a conversation. So if you're sitting back listening phone, and you can be plugged in with Sir Charles. So let's just jump in. Hey, one of the things that I know that you talk about a lot in some of your corporate talks and some of your individual coaching is the use of imagination and mindset and that kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
So how do you use imagination when you're overwhelmed, and then specifically how do you leverage organized planning to help you get through those periods where you might otherwise feel overwhelmed?
Well, it's funny you asked that because imagination, initially I felt like imagination was my favorite chapter, and I think it still is, but there's so many others that are so closely tied to this book that really hit me, not just in my spirit, but deep in my soul, if you will. For me, I'm a creative being, so imagination is kind of an outlet for me. It could be a workplace. It could be so many things for me. And when I'm overwhelmed, a lot of times I just simply sit still. Now, that may seem odd for maybe someone else that's not creative or doesn't consider themselves creative, but to me, sitting still is so revitalizing, and it allows fresh ideas, fresh perspective to literally enter. And when I say sit still, just let me make this clear. I'm not talking about being on social media, not being on your phone, not even listening to the news or watching Netflix. I'm talking about literally still. Now, I can tell you this because I am a creative being. I can be still even in the midst of white noise or other noise, meaning that when it's important enough for me, I go in. And if I go in, I can zone out, quiet out, mute out all other distractions. Now, in today's society, it takes a lot to do that because there's noise coming at us from every direction and every different type of noise. But the long and short of it is quiet. It's still, it's tranquility. Those key words are things that to me are huge because too much noise when you're overwhelmed, too much distraction can really create a meltdown. I mean, I don't care how strong you are, how smart you are, how well built or thought of you are. Too much of anything can be no good, obviously, but really the answer in a nutshell, tranquility, being still. Now, as it relates to organized planning, it feeds the organized planning because when you are still, you have a clear or a clean slate. So it allows you the opportunity to put things in order. And even if you have to shift the order, you don't have extra noise or stuff going on, whereas you can't methodically or sensibly see how you need to rearrange or restructure a plan, an idea, a talk, a conversation, or whatever it is, a trip, if you will.
Gotcha, boy. I tell you, you're hitting with all fire, man, right out of the gate. And Ursula is kind of teetering back in her chair, so I better let her get in with a question before she explodes. So Ursula, what's on your mind?
How can you tell that I'm about to explode? Seriously, on the surface, Sir Charles, by the way, hello.
Yes, good to speak to you again.
D.C. or Philadelphia or someplace like that.
Right.
But on the surface, it appears that you have answered my question, but I'm going to ask it in slightly a different way.
Okay.
What happens when imagination goes wow? I mean, like off the chain, and structure becomes restricted. The extremes of both of those.
I think that sort of reverts back to the first question in a sense, because that goes back to the overwhelm. What is overwhelm? What is it like when you're mad? You're thinking of all these things. And for me, I'll be honest with you, I'm like to say, a bat out of hell sometimes when it comes to imagination, because I can create ideas and things and talks and titles and all this stuff, even when it's not for me. I'll do it for other people and like, hey, you ever tried this? And I'll give it to them, and I'll even tell them the steps. So imagine in the course of the day, let's say if you're a speaker, for example, which I am, but let's say if someone's a speaker and they come up to you after your keynote and say, hey, well, I'm trying to do this. And someone says, I'm trying to do that. So here you are, maybe not necessarily pulling them in for your coaching program yet, but you're giving them general ideas. Why don't you try this, right? So all of a sudden you have all these things coming at you, not to mention your own stuff. Well, for me, this is why I need a mastermind, honestly. And why I say that, because I will be held accountable. I'll be held accountable to what I'm supposed to do. So when I do that talk, keynote, whatever it may be, and I have people coming at me from different angles, what's going to happen is I'm going to need to be able to be quiet, internally quiet, so that I can give those people what they need, but so that I can also keep myself on track. And I think that, the imagination can be a blessing and a curse. Blessing for obvious reasons. You come up with things that maybe others can't come up, or you come up with things that can help you down the line. You can monetize them. But the curse is the fact that, like you're asking the question, you get all these things in your head, and how do you handle it? How do you, be one with yourself, one with your authentic, genuine self? And I think the answer still comes back to, being quiet, because you can take your own self off track because you're so creative. And I've done that. I've had so many ideas that I thought, oh, I want to do this and I want to do that. And sometimes I've done those things, but they haven't produced results, not monetary results as I thought they would. So I had to start taking things off my plate. And I think there's a thing called discernment. When you can discern, hopefully you have enough understanding of self, understanding of who you may call God, to know that, wait a minute, I'm doing way too much. I'm trying to put too much stuff out there. I'm trying to spread myself too thin. I think it's quite clear, if you have discernment, then you will know when it's time to dial it down. And if you can't dial it down and you find yourself in this ongoing tailspin of, all this stuff going on, that's when you my friend, may need a coach or a mastermind.
Thank you, and what a great statement for what we're doing right now. Perfect point. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, fantastic. Hey, Pegeen and I were talking actually before this episode about how this really connects to the conversation that she led last week. And this is the longest I've ever known Pegeen to be quiet. So I'm gonna let her out. What we're talking about, and you got any questions for Sir Charles?
I have to tell you, I'm taking this from you, but I want to jump in fabulous information. Thank you so much, everybody. One of the things I love what you said about discernment and being able to really discern and know when you have to, when this is kind of a reception that you're receiving for your highest good or not. But you have to be tapped in, right? You have to tap in, and you have to be tuned in, and you have to be turned on to hear it.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you is, what is the best time to tap into the imagination? What is your process to be quiet and tap into your imagination?
Well, this is the most or the best thing about being the most intelligent species. We're all different. There are different mechanics and nuances that make us how we are, temperaments and characteristics. And for everyone, it may simply be different. It doesn't matter if we're in the same industry. Like most people on this call are business owners. Some of us are coaches, some of us are speakers, some of us are coaches and speakers. The point is, just because we all wear a similar hat or wear hats doesn't mean we're going to wear our hats the same way. So to me, the best time, it depends on the individual. What makes you how you are? Okay, so is there a lull Is it the fact that there's nothing really going on in your life or in your business? That may be a good clue to try to tap into your imagination, even if it's prompted by something or someone else. Now, if you're a person like myself that you're always creative and right, you're all over the place at times, well, maybe you really need to know that, you know what, let me keep a digital recorder or a notebook specifically for my ideas so that they can jot down or record those ideas and come back to them later. I personally think writing would be better because you can see it on a recording. It's great to have a recorded log, but you'll be forced to have to listen to maybe a lot of information depending on how often you record to get to the thing that bing, then that the universe says this is the thing for now. So if you write down, and you can use Evernote, you can use Penzu, you can use a pen and paper, you can use a special book near your nightstand, whatever it may be. If you write your ideas, your creative ideas, that may be the thing that you can look at and say, no, not that. No, I don't need to do a book. You know what? Maybe I need to do a seminar, a teleseminar, whatever it may be. So write down things and look at them and I'm going back to discernment a little bit. Allow the spirit of discernment to talk to you, talk to your imagination, and let you know what you need to connect with at that specific time. And don't look at it 2 and 3 times. Usually, keyword, usually, hashtag usually, your first train of thought is the one you should go with.
Do you use visualization to help you in your imagination? So do you spend time like in a quiet place and
I talk to people all the time about that.
A place where you can see yourself doing yourself doing what it is that you know you're destined to do, and then ask for guidance for the imagination. Do you spend quiet time like that?
Well, I'm going to work backwards. I think asking for guidance, even for the most creative person, is a smart thing. You just have to know who you're asking for the guidance from. Me personally, I have asked for guidance, and I lean a lot to colleagues that I know that are going or trying to go where I'm going, colleagues that have invested in themselves at the same proportion, if not more, than I have. And the visualization I use or look into is the simple fact that if you're aware, and I'm going back to discernment again, if you're conscious, if you discern every single day of your life, especially if you have vision, you can see with your eyes. Every single day of your life is an opportunity to learn and grow. So how does this fit into the question? Because every time you walk out your front door, you're on your way to wherever you're going, your job or your next gig, the store, it's an opportunity to learn. You see things. Just pay attention to the universe. The universe is always speaking to us from my perspective. It's always teaching a lesson. It's always sharing something. It could be a sign on the side of a bus. It could be a little kid saying something to someone down the street. It could be someone's radio that you happen to hear in the far distance. So it could be visual. It could be auditory. It could be kinesthetic. Every opportunity is an opportunity for you to creatively grow or tap into that je ne sais quoi, if you will, for what you should do, could be doing, or need to expand upon.
That's writing notes, and that's great. I love how you say to be aware and conscious and discern. I think those are.
You know why? Because I think sometimes, and of course, I know I've done it. We all take everything for granted. It's like, okay, you see a little kid running across the street. Okay, well, it doesn't mean anything. Well, maybe depending on what's going on in your life, it's time for you to pick up the pace. Who knows? It could be an indication. It could be a clear marker. You may hear someone saying something like, man, you must be out of your head. Who knows? That could be the title for your next book. But you have to know where you are, where you want to go, what you're doing, what you're not doing, and fill the void with the right stimuli. We all walk around and live this life, and sometimes we're not taking advantage of what God is giving us. And it's not going to always be a clear indication of, hey, Charles, this is for you. No, but just allow yourself to borrow from the universe at will.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, thank you for a great question.
Man, hey, when you and I talked earlier this week, Sir Charles, I told you not to take any shortcuts and hit him with the fire, man. I didn't mean to hit him this hard, man. You're just blasting, man.
No, I'll be honest with you, Galen. I'll be honest with you. Sometimes, now, a person sometimes knows a question that's going to be asked, and sometimes you don't know. But you may not authentically know your complete response. And I'm not trying to get preachy or churchy with people, because I don't know what anyone's belief system is, and I'm not trying to turn anyone off. But I truly believe that God brings the answers and the words to us and through us at the time they need to be used. So I can't completely take credit for it, but I know that I believe it, I live by it, and I'm just honored if someone can get something from it.
Yeah, well, hey, earlier in this conversation, you talked about how, being a creative type, and I fancy myself to be creative as well, if I can relate, that sometimes, your imagination kind of gets ahead of you, or can get ahead of you, and so you have to really use organized planning to really kind of stay focused on what you're trying to do and how you can have the greatest impact. What would you say would be the limitations, or do you believe that there are limitations to imagination? And then how have you used organized planning in that regard?
To be honest with you, I do not think that there is a limitation. I think that from time to time, we should limit how deep we allow ourselves to go, or, how open we allow ourselves to stay, because imagination is, and every aspect of Think and Grow Rich, it's a portion of the process. We probably will excel in one portion more than others. However, we have to monitor ourselves to not just stay in one section of life, one section of a book. If you want to read the whole book, you can't just read the same chapter over and over. And it's the same thing with how you live. You can't just say, oh, I want to apply that. That's going to make me successful. No, it may, but what will happen, in my opinion, there will come a time where you will feel a void, and that's because you haven't read the rest of the book. So I don't think that there is a limitation on imagination. We just have to learn how to use our imagination, again, according to the person that we are, according to what we're trying to create or do, and definitely according to where we're trying to go.
Fantastic. All right. Well, hey, Peter, James, and I were trading some notes, and he texted me this question, wanting me to ask, and I said, "Dude, that's way too loaded. You got to ask that question." So, Peter, I'm gonna put you on blast, man. What was the question that you asked me to ask?
And I'm happy. I feel good about myself this morning, man. I had to withdraw after that, there, Galen. But so Charles, thank you so much for being with us. You are an inspiration to me already. Early this Saturday morning, I am ready to get the weekend pumped.
Yes, sir.
And our paths have crossed. Yeah, man, absolutely. Our paths have crossed quite a few times.
Yes, sir.
I haven't had the pleasure of having a conversation by any means, but I just want to thank you again for your inspiration and what your journey has meant to the audience, what your journey has meant to me, man. Thank you so much for that.
I'm grateful. Thank you so much, Peter.
Yeah, man. So here's my question that Galen was alluding to. As men, a lot of times we think we dictate everything that goes on in society. You know, the male as it relates to business, we think we run it. You know, we're still the majority of CEOs. I don't understand why that is still the case. But just in general, we take a lot of things for granted. Take words from what you just said there as well.
Mm-hmm.
But my question to you is this: from your perspective, from what you think, are we better at imagining or even organizing our careers, our business, our ideas, just in general, from your perspective?
Now, when you say better, you mean like better than women, or just? I mean, I'd imagine that's the comparison. Is that right?
You would imagine that for sure, but sure, absolutely. There's two, absolutely. From your perspective,
Okay.
just better. What are your thoughts around whether it's a gender conversation or just generalizing things overall?
Of course. Next question. No, I'm kidding. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. Honestly, I think that it goes back to like temperament, character, and desire, and all those things. Everyone is different, and for those that are or have been creative artists, those that are builders, I think that those people, male or female, have the ability to be better at imagining things simply because it's already built in them to be creative, to draw, to take a blank wall or a slate or a canvas and make something, have an idea. So I don't think that men are necessarily better at imagining, not at all, honestly. I think it's the person, the individual. And it's funny, they say that you don't want to back a cat into a corner because it'll lash out or it'll strike you or it becomes vicious or whatever. I think any person, male or female, that has a deep desire or is not satisfied, they have a great ability to exercise their imagination in a stupendous way. And simply because, you know what they say, when you're down, you can't go any lower. There's only one way to go, and that's up. So that person will probably propel themselves in a manner that they didn't even realize that they could do, simply because they, their back was against the wall.
Interesting. So yeah, well, I do tend to agree with you on that one. It's just an interesting concept. From my perspective, I see more and more women entering the business in the corporate space. I'm excited about that, especially being living in a house with all women. And I just wanted to get your perspective and your take on it, especially in regards to your own journey. So yeah, thank you so much for clarifying that as well.
In some ways, I could tell you this, Peter. I know we're kind of going to the next phase, but in so many ways, it's good that women are starting to move to the forefront in corporate, private, in all facets, because I can understand the uneasiness with some men, especially traditional thinking men, as they would say, the old money. I get that. But if it's really about growing and sharing and giving and, really being about the purpose and not the person, it opens up an opportunity to really see things on a level playing field, to grow on a level playing field, to learn from new perspectives. And again, I know when you're in control, who wants to relinquish control? But you never know about something until you give it an opportunity, or till it has an opportunity to show itself, see what it's worth.
Absolutely, yeah. That's good analysis right there for sure. I'm excited about what you have shared with us. Excited about your journey, man. And thank you again for being on this call with us today.
Thank you so much.
Sir Charles, thank you so much. You, as I mentioned earlier while I was talking, you are an inspiration to me. In the imagination chapter of this text, Napoleon Hill says the only limitation is that which one sets up in one's own mind. And Charles, you didn't go a lot into your journey, but I have to tell you that I encourage everyone to jump onto your social media, whether it's your Twitter, your Facebook, your LinkedIn, or even any of your books that you have there. Your journey to where you've gotten to now is so inspiring, and does not. I think your success does not definitely show your journey. So everyone's got a journey. Everyone's got roads and things that they overcome. You are no different. You are actually an inspiration to me and everyone who looks you up on all the social media platforms or your books. So thank you for that. And thank you just again being here this morning and sharing your life with us as well.
Thanks a lot, Peter. You know, if I could share something really quick, I'd like to say that, you know, as a young boy, they used to teach us in school how to write tall tales, and I would write tall tales, and I got excited about it, and I loved reading because, again, I was fueling and feeding my imagination. And then at a certain point, I didn't like reading anymore because, in my mind, this is a waste of time. I don't have those things. Those are just thoughts. And for a long time, I shut down the interest of reading and the adventure that my mind would go to in reading different books and creating different tall tale stories. And as you fast forward later in life, you realize, wow, what damage I was causing myself without even knowing, because I was initially being exposed to my greatness. So I'm so passionate, so excited about what I do now as a presenter and as a trainer and coach that it probably shows up when I present and speak. But, you know, I had a thought, because in the book on page 98, it said, what I would do if I had $1 million. And it took me back to those tall tales that we were supposed to write in school, and the fact that after a while I got tired of doing it because they were just words, they were just thoughts, not realizing that I had robbed myself for decades of possibility and potential. So all of my books now that I write, I've got actually my book, Radiate the Brain and Change the Game, is being turned into a series. That book, as well as Radiate the Brain and Change the Game, Aligned by Design, and Radiate the Brain and Change the Game, What's So Hard About Being You. The entire 4 books is a series being repackaged and rebranded, and I look forward to sharing it with everyone in the future as it is ready for debut.
Awesome stuff. Well, fantastic, man. Well, fantastic, man. I'll tell you, this conversation reminds me of something my grandmother used to tell me. You were cooking with grease this morning, man. You were cooking with grease. So, thank you for that. And how could, if by chance there is someone listening and they did not get enough of Sir Charles this morning and they are just glutton for more, how can they get a hold of you, either to speak to their organization or to speak to them individually? How can they get a hold of you?
Okay, if you got a pen and paper, I would suggest you write this down, because I'm going to give you a few different things, and I don't know what resonates with who. For general contact, everything is / Sir Charles Carey. I'm talking about LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Everything is / Sir Charles Carey. And for you old schoolers, you know how to spell Carey. So it's C-A-R-Y. The young folks may not know how to spell Carey. Sir Charles, C-A-R-Y. The website itself, if you're interested in getting any of the books or the audio programs or the DVD programs, that's sircharlescareyinc.com. And if just in case you didn't get that, there's another site. I have an alternate site as well, which is charlescarey.net. You can get any of the books that are available there. I think all of them have been knocked down, especially for this broadcast.